The most dangerous kind of abuse is the kind that convinces you that it's not abuse, right? It's the kind that hides behind the charm and the inside jokes. The kind that leaves no marks, but leaves you feeling gutted. If you've ever found yourself asking, was it really abuse, or am I overreacting? This message is for you. This is about the kind of abuse that doesn't leave bruises, that doesn't leave broken bones, but it leaves you doubting your memory, it leaves you blaming yourself, and feeling like a shell of the person that you used to be. I'm Lisa Sonni, a certified relationship coach and toxic and abusive relationship expert. I'm the founder of Stronger Than Before, author of 4 books, and the creator of the signature and breakthrough trauma bond recovery course using my proven 3-step break and rebuild method. Hit subscribe because I don't want you to miss any videos like this. Now, covert abuse, it is so hard to spot, right? Especially when the person doing it looks so put together. They're so nice, they're so charming. My abuser, I always would describe him as magnetic. He's kind, he's funny, he's the guy that everybody wants to know, that everybody wants to be around. But when they love bomb you really early on, when they make you feel special and chosen and safe, and that sense of closeness, it is not accidental. It is curated. They learned what made you feel seen, and then they gave you exactly that. And not because it was real, right? But because it gave them access to you. And then that's when the shift begins, right? You get a compliment, but with a jab. You're really smart. I mean, not book smart, but you've got good instincts. Or they're going to like tease you in public in ways that leave you feeling completely humiliated, but you can't really react without seeming uptight, right? He might say something like, oh, she gets like this. It's a full moon. Mine would say, you know, some people just don't like you, and that's okay. You're an acquired taste. Like, who says that? You laugh it off because it's easier than confronting it. You start rationalizing it. Maybe they're just stressed. He didn't mean it like that, right? Maybe I'm overthinking things. But that is how covert abuse gets in, right? Abuse generally isn't them calling you names right off the bat. I don't know why people think that that's how the first dates go. It's slow. And the slowness is exactly what makes it so effective. They don't stop you from seeing friends. They just make you feel really guilty about it. Or they're going to call you like 72 times when you're out with your friends. It's the eye roll, right? You're going to hang out with Daniela. She hates me. That's supposed to make you feel bad. They don't scream when they're angry. They go silent. They stone face. They punish you. They distance. They withdraw. They don't forbid you from dressing a certain way, right? They just look at you up and down and say, interesting choice. Or they accuse you of getting dressed up for someone else. And it's all technically deniable, right? It's technically explainable. Technically not that bad. And they love that, the plausible deniability. How am I controlling? You can do whatever you want. But what they're not saying out loud is that there's consequences when you do. So here's the truth. Just because someone isn't yelling, it doesn't mean that they're not controlling. Just because they aren't hitting you, it doesn't mean that they're not hurting you. And just because nobody else sees it, it doesn't mean that it's not happening. One of the biggest red flags in covert abuse is how often you find yourself kind of explaining or just justifying the relationship. You might be doing it to friends, your parents, a therapist, to yourself, right? You have this kind of inner ongoing debate. Like, okay, they're not perfect, but they love me. It's not all bad. So many of my clients are like, listen, he's not all bad. Let me just explain. There's good and bad. I know. That's a covert abusive relationship. That's exactly how it works, right? They can be so thoughtful. I know they have a good heart. I know he's not good to me, but he's a good father. What? Right? But sometimes they're really sweet, and sometimes they say sorry, and sometimes they go out of their way to show that they care, but it's always kind of especially after the cruel moments, but that's really what makes it so confusing, because covert abuse is so rarely just abuse. It's a cycle. You see it all the time. Idealize, devalue, discard, kindness, cruelty, kindness again, and you're literally never sure which version of them that you're going to get. That unpredictability, it's part of what makes the trauma bond. Now, if you don't know what a trauma bond is, it's what happens when your brain actually starts linking safety and connection with the same person who's causing you pain. It's what makes you crave the apology right after the insult. It is what keeps you hooked, because the only way to feel okay again is to get back in their good graces. I teach exactly how to break a trauma bond and get your life back inside the trauma bond recovery course. Now, you start believing that the abuse is your fault, the mistreatment is your fault, and you start to tiptoe. That's the eggshells that you always hear people talk about. You're managing their moods. So you try harder. You become better in their eyes, but really nothing's ever better. You become smaller, quieter, more agreeable. You start losing yourself, and you're doing this like one compromise at a time, right? It's not just the abuse that does the damage. It is the constant questioning of your own reality. It's the gaslighting. Now, I'm also going to share how to heal from this in this video, so keep watching. You might say, that really hurt me. And they say, what? That never happened. And you say, you said that yesterday. And they say, no, I didn't. You always twist things. You start to believe them. You stop trusting your own instincts. That's not just manipulation. It is manipulation, but not just manipulation. It is a complete erosion of your sense of self. And this kind of abuse, it does not leave scars on your body, right? It leaves them on your mind. It makes you forget who you were before them. It makes you feel dependent on their version of reality because yours has been so discredited. That's what makes this kind of abuse so dangerous. It doesn't scream, it whispers. And if you try to explain it to someone, especially if someone didn't even really see it firsthand, you feel crazy. You feel so dramatic. You feel ashamed because there's no big obvious moment that you can point to, right? It's often described as death by 1,000 paper cuts. That makes sense, right? Here's what I want you to know. If somebody made you feel confused and small and anxious and ashamed and they called it love, it wasn't love. It was abuse. And if someone chipped away at your confidence and made you doubt yourself and just left you feeling like hollow and empty, that is not a normal relationship. That is emotional control. That's harm. And just because they didn't yell, just because they were also funny and charming to everyone else, that doesn't mean that you imagined what happened behind closed doors. You didn't. You lived it. And I believe you. If it was really hard to leave, that doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. We need to start asking why abusers make it so hard to leave instead of asking why victims don't leave. There's a reason. You know, something I've always found really interesting is when we talk about fear, right? If you were so afraid, you'd leave. No, because I was so afraid, I couldn't leave. I don't know why that's so hard for people to understand. This all means that you are human. And in fact, it probably means that you were trauma bonded. It means that your nervous system was so caught up and wrapped up in fear and hope at the same time. These abusive relationships, they thrive on hope. So entangling that kind of fear and hope cocktail, so untangling all of that fear and hope, it's not a character flaw. That's actually called recovery. And there's no shame in not seeing it sooner because they didn't want you to see it. They literally helped you be blind to it. They wanted you off balance. In fact, they needed you uncertain and off balance. So the fact that you're starting to name it now, that you're watching videos like this, that actually matters so much more than how long it takes. So truthfully, if you're out now, or even if you're just trying to get out and you're still wondering, why do I miss them? Why do I feel like I'll never be okay again? Or why can't I leave? It's not a sign that there's anything wrong with you. It's actually a sign that the abuse did exactly what it was meant to do. Because after this kind of relationship, you don't just walk away. You unravel. I felt like I was shattered into 1,000 pieces. I often say I feel like he just crumbled me up into 1,000,000 little pieces and just spread my ashes around, right? I questioned my worth, my instincts, my ability to trust anyone ever again. No matter how badly this person has treated you, there is still a part of you that's going to remember the good moments and wonder if you gave up too soon. And that is the trap of covert abuse. That is a trauma bond. It literally keeps you circling back, not to what was real, but to what was promised. So you might find yourself thinking about how they made you laugh, or how safe you felt at first, how deeply you loved them. You might even wonder if you were the problem. If maybe your trauma, your insecurities, your fears, right? You made you difficult to love. And you go back through every argument in your mind. You look for the moment, this magical moment that you can kind of pinpoint where everything went wrong. You're trying to fix it, right? But the truth is you didn't cause their abuse. You didn't. You reacted to it. And yeah, okay, I bet you raised your voice, right? Maybe you begged, cried, pleaded, shut down, lashed out, screamed. You didn't react well. I get it. And I don't really know what reacting well would be. I mean, I suppose leaving, right? But we can't pretend that leaving is easy. We are talking about how you can't even recognize it as abuse. How could you have left if you didn't even know it was abuse, right? You had bad reactions. I get it. But that doesn't make you the abuser. That makes you someone pushed past their edge. Survival mode doesn't look graceful. It doesn't even look quiet or kind of focused. It looks messy. It looks desperate. But it's not your fault that you were drowning. It's actually their fault for holding your head underwater. And the reason that it hurts so much after, even when you know it was toxic, it's because you were manipulated into attaching to this fantasy, this version of them that was never gonna last. The version that showed up like just long enough to get you hooked. That's the version that you miss. That's the version that you love, right? It's not the lies. It's not the eggshells. It's not the chaos. You miss the potential, the hope. You miss those brief moments where you felt truly seen. And it's honestly okay to miss that. You know, you're allowed to grieve it. You're not stupid for loving someone who treated you this way, someone who hurt you, or grieving someone who hurt you. And you're not weak for wishing that it could have been different. Grief doesn't actually mean that you made the wrong choice. It means that you're finally facing the truth. And to me, that's one of the bravest things that you'll ever do. So now what, right? How do you heal from something that literally broke you in ways that no one else can see? So the first thing you do is you name it, right? You stop downplaying what you went through. You stop calling it toxic when it was abuse. Say it. This was abuse. The language actually matters, right? It's not to shame you. It's to validate you. You don't need to minimize it just because other people didn't see it. This whole like, oh, well, everybody says abuse now. Yeah, we're naming it now. That's right. People are actually speaking out loud now. We're not downplaying it anymore. You saw it. You lived it. That's enough. The next thing you do is you rebuild safety with yourself, with you, inside you. So when someone has constantly made you doubt your own thoughts, your feelings, your needs, I'm telling you, you got to kind of start slow. You ask yourself, what do I know to be true about what I experienced? Write it down. Say it out loud. Make a private video vlog. Make a private video diary. Remind yourself daily. I call this phase listening to yourself, and it's the second pillar of my break and rebuild method. It's where you stop letting their voice override yours. Now, third, you regulate. You have to regulate yourself. Trauma bonds don't just live in your thoughts. They literally live in your nervous system. So you might still kind of get that like jolt when they text you. You might still feel nauseous, sick to your stomach if somebody raises their voice. That doesn't mean that you're broken. It just means that your body is still wired to expect harm. You haven't hit that safety place yet. This is where nervous system work and breath work, somatic tools, nervous system education really come in, because you're not going to heal a trauma bond just by thinking your way out of it. I always say you can't logic your way out of this. You have to feel safe again, and that happens in your body. So if you don't know where to start, that's exactly what I teach inside the Trauma Bond Recovery course, because safety is something that we need to relearn. Now, fourth, you need to rewrite the story. You reclaim your identity, because they didn't abuse you, because they didn't just abuse you. They actually tried to define you. They tried to convince you that you were too sensitive, too emotional, too much, too little, whatever, right? But you get to decide who you are now. You get to choose how this story ends. And no, I wish that it happened overnight, but it doesn't. It takes time, but it's really about what you do with that time. It's the effort that you put in with the time that you have. So you might have days where you feel totally strong and clear, and then one text, one memory, one dream, it sends you spiraling out. And I want you to know how normal that is, right? I'm going to say something so cliche. Healing is not linear, right? I know we hear that a lot, but it is also so true. Every time you choose to stay out of contact, or you choose to not be baited into defending yourself in some ridiculous argument, every time you speak your truth without apologizing for it, every time you say, hey, I deserve more than this, you are breaking that trauma bond a little bit more. You're not surviving them anymore. You are becoming you again. And that is what matters most, because covert abuse is real and it is dangerous and it is devastating, but it's also survivable, because on the other side of it all, you've got clarity and strength. And there's this version of you that trusts your instincts, This version that doesn't apologize for taking up space, who doesn't shrink to keep someone else comfortable. And she's already in you. She is fighting to come back. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't need everyone to understand. You don't. You just need to know deep in your gut that it was abuse and that you are finally free. Even if you're in the relationship, you are free because it's a mindset. If this helped put words to anything that you have been through, I hope that you'll share it with someone who needs it. And if you're ready to go deeper, right? If you're ready to fully break that trauma bond and reclaim your sense of self, I'll meet you inside the course. You were never crazy. You were conditioned. You were conditioned to put up with this. And now you get to unlearn all of it for good. Thank you for watching. And if you want more videos like this, please make sure to hit subscribe and follow me across all social media platforms.